everyone. Welcome inside the Red Earth Production Studios for another edition of YBMcast. And today on the show, we have our resident high school guru from PBR, Prep Baseball Report, Kevin Moulder, joining us today. Kevin, how are you, man?
I'm great, Brian. How are you guys doing?
Doing good. We're missing Matt today. I'm sure we'll catch up with him sometime after the holiday. But you know, the show must go on.
That's right.
And as always, YBMcast is powered by Game 7 Baseball. Game7baseball.com. Make sure you get in, get your team registered. A lot of great stuff coming up. We're proud to be partners with Game 7 Baseball. We've got a couple of tournaments that we're going to be promoting and sponsoring this year. The Elite Championships, 13 and 14U. One in April, one in June. Go to the website, check out those dates. We'd love to, have some of the top teams around here. We got some invites out, so we're looking forward to that, to those tournaments. And we'll be out, of course, at our other locations. And we've got some good stuff coming up this spring. I guess it's called winter spring. I know they call it spring baseball, Kevin, but, we're starting in March. It's still wintertime, right?
Technically, that's right. But for baseball guys, that's springtime, right?
Exactly. So we got Kevin on here today. We're going to talk some PBR rankings. We're going to talk some high school baseball. And Kevin, you were saying before we started here, you're working on the 2022 rankings. So let's start there.
Yeah, this is ranking season for me. So, September and October were pretty heavy months for me in terms of getting out, seeing games, running events, and seeing players, etc. So I spent a lot of my time in November and even the front part of December kind of getting everything in order. So right now, I just put out the 2025 rankings about a week ago. And it's a quick look at our 2025 class, which are freshmen. It's just 25 guys, and we don't know a ton about a lot of these guys, but we do hit on some of the bigger names and some of the guys that have been committed already. Believe it or not, I think we got 4 guys committed in that class already. And then now I'm getting into the senior class, which is, maybe our most in-depth ranking. We know a lot about these guys. There's, not a ton of newcomers. There's a couple, but guys still make big jumps, and you start to see some late bloomers pop and whatnot. And these guys are heading into their all-important senior year. So putting that together and should drop that at the end of this week. They're tomorrow or Friday at the latest.
So let's look a little bit here. You've got these freshmen. Let's talk about a couple kids here. You got Thompson at the top there, committed to Tennessee. That's early, man, for a freshman, isn't it?
It's extremely early. And, one thing I like to talk about, Thompson is he is a special player. He's going to be a really good baseball player. He already is a good baseball player, but he's going to be even better in the years to come. You look at a Ty Thompson, a Gavin Richards, both these guys are studs. But that's the 1%ers of the 1%. And it doesn't mean, some kid in this 2025 class or freshman, these guys haven't even played a high school baseball game.
Right.
There will be someone, there'll be lots of guys that I don't even know their names that go on to be big time Division I baseball players, even a big leaguer. So just because you're not ranked, in the top 5 or 25 or whatever, in this 25 class, it doesn't mean too much. This is just an early look at the guys that are already popped, a little ahead of things at this point in time. But, these guys are, 14, 15 years old. So they're there's still a long way to go in this thing for these guys. So I think it's good. It gives us a nice look. It gives us some perspective of where things are now. But that it really doesn't mean too much for where, this isn't locked in. These are going to be the only good players that come out of this class. There's going to be a lot of changes over the next 3-4 years.
Well, and, we've had an opportunity. We had him on the show many moons ago in our player spotlight, but we talked with both Gavin Richards. Riker Benz is also going.
Yes.
He's committed to Oklahoma. I mean, St. John's kind of keeps, you got Trey. I'm sorry, Joe.
Trey Jezorowski.
There it is. You look at the freshmen coming in there. You got Riker and this young man at Vianney. That looks pretty good for Vianney, doesn't it?
Yeah, they got an extremely strong freshman class, and it'll be interesting to see. We've talked about Liberty North and how strong their freshman class was, and they had 2 freshmen starting varsity last year, and they had a really good year, both as a team and as individuals. And it's going to be fun to watch them, and we've talked about them as a potential state, see if they can win a state championship sometime during their career. And this Vianney class is also going to be kind of the Liberty North of last year. It's going to be, I wouldn't anticipate them maybe being the state champions as freshmen, but man, it's the talent's hard to deny.
JD Dorman, right?
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they can pull this off at some point during their career. And but man, it's a talented freshman class.
Nolan Jaworski, Andrew Anderson, all these kids, man. My goodness.
It is an impressive group of freshmen.
You could pencil. Like you said, maybe not freshmen, but the next 3 years, it's Final Fours. You could pencil them in.
It will be interesting. Now, the Vianney group, in particular, they play in a really tough conference. Mm-hmm. So there's some really good teams. Obviously, CBC was in state last year. DeSmet won a state championship the year before COVID. Mm-hmm. And St. Lucie High and Chaminade are also, can be very good. They've certainly had really strong teams recently. So we'll see. But, yeah, you like the guys they got coming in. On paper, it looks really nice.
Yes, it does. So let's look at, a couple kids here. You got Lee Summit West, Tyler Wood, Lee Humbert, Francis Howell. Those kind of round out the top 5 there. Those young men aren't committed. But, top 5, what do you see in those 2 young men?
Tyler's a big arm. Tyler, he was the only guy in this class that participated in the high school version of the Future Games. So we do a junior Future Games, and Ty was a part of that. Mm-hmm. Ty Thompson was a part of the junior Future. A lot of these guys were on the junior Future Games team, but Tyler Wood, we had him throw an inning, or actually 2 innings with the Team Missouri for the high school Future Games, and he did well. Struck out a couple guys versus Team Louisiana, which was a stacked team. So he showed extremely well. I think got up to 86 miles per hour. He's been up to 88 before, and he's a big athletic dude. Also plays center field, so he's a good athlete. And the thing I'll say about this with the guys these young, it is way too early to start pigeonholing these guys into what they're going to be positionally. Like Tyler, I like him a lot on the mound. He's also a really good center fielder. He's got some pop in the bat. He might end up being a better positional player. I don't know at this point. They're too young to say, hey, this guy's going to be a pitcher or this guy's going to be a positional player. you kind of let it run its course and see how things go. But he is a super talented individual. And then Leo, that's going to be an interesting to watch over there with Coach Perkins.
Yeah.
They had a freshman start varsity last year, Titus Sissel. Obviously, Francis Howell's going to be one of the stronger teams in the area again this year. They got a loaded group. I'll have my eye on that to see what Coach Perkins does with this young man. If he's, if he's playing every day on the JV team, or if he has them up with some sort of a role on the varsity team. And, that'll be something interesting to keep an eye on.
Very good. I want to go back to a point you made. I think it's interesting that you bring this up. When you're talking about these players and pigeonholing them, you can't do that yet because the outlier is the bat, isn't it? Because it's hard to take that bat out of the lineup when you got a kid hitting, in high school, say he's hitting 400. I mean, can he take and make that next jump to the collegiate level hitting 300 in the same thought process, right?
No question. And the thing that's interesting about the 25s or just the freshman class in general every year is one of the biggest separators between a freshman and a senior typically is strength, right? So, a freshman might have a better swing technically or mechanically than the senior, but the senior is close to becoming a man. Some of them already, physically are. The freshmen are certainly, for the most part, boys still, they're not physically developed. They're not strength. So a lot of this is just a strength issue. A lot of the guys at the top of the list are already physically developed and a little stronger. So that does have a huge piece in this. The strength is such a big aspect, in our sport.
Absolutely. I think it's always interesting to see because you're looking at the future of programs and you kind of get an idea as we sit here looking at this. You got Vianney, always again, there's Rockbridge, right there. And these are all players that teams and stuff that we watch. I look down here and we've talked about Springfield a lot and Glendale, had a good year. They got Sebastian Norman coming in there as a third baseman. Yep. You look at Timberland here, Carson Ramos, a catcher there, Mason Lee. Some of these kids I don't know. You got Jeff City, shortstop, Jordan Martin there. I like this here, Brennan Goring, St. Charles West, Coach New over there, right? I mean, you're looking at some really tremendous opportunities and teams that we've talked about and looked at. You look at Liberty here. Is that Liberty in Kansas City? For Jacob Robinson. Jake Robinson.
That is, that's Liberty here.
That's Liberty Winsville. Okay. I know St. sometimes Louis. I just want to make sure we, again, Nick Clements over there, Parkway South, right there, Luke Sullivan, and another Francis Howell freshman, Bryce Daniel. I've never heard of William Chrisman. Is that a private school?
Yes, over in the Kansas City area.
Okay. And, of course, Vianney rounds that out, Kearney, Kingston. You got a couple of smaller schools there, don't you? Chase Porter.
Yeah, Kingston's like a 1A school, I believe. I saw Aiden Peel play in the summertimes. He was with us at the Junior Future Games, classic leadoff, kind of scrappy type guy. So, yeah, their high schools are attached, but obviously I've never seen any of them play at their high schools, nor has anyone. Yeah.
We will see them, though. And I think that's an interesting thing there. I love to see that, the small schools in there. I think it broadens our perspective on the state, right?
Yeah, there's certainly no large school bias into these rankings because, like I said earlier, like no one has seen these guys play. You don't even know where they're going to go to high school. Often, when you're watching them play, you kind of pick this information up as you go. This is just kind of where the chips fall. You watch these guys play with their travel organization or at our events that they come to. Yeah, so you don't it's not like I'm sitting here and I'm like, oh, there's that kid goes to Vianney or that kid goes to Francis Howell. I better rent. It's not like that at all. You don't even know where these kids are going to go when you're looking at.
I want to take a step into as we look at, you got the freshman rankings up. So we're coming to, Thanksgiving's around the corner, then into Christmas, and then boom, January hits, and it's pretty much on the go, right?
Very much so.
What does your winter schedule look like here?
So, my winter really picks up. I'll finish out the rankings as we head into Christmas time. Take a little bit of a breather after Christmas through New Year's. And then we really ramp up our winter stuff beginning in late January. And then February is absolutely slammed heading into the start of high school tryouts, which I think might actually be the last day of February this year on a Monday. Mm-hmm. So our big event is our preseason all-state event, February 5th. We'll do that in Wentzville at the Sports Barn. That's an invite-only event where we try to get the top Missouri players. And then we do a similar event in Kansas City on Sunday, February 13th at the Mackensites facility. We run one on each side of the state. So gotcha. We make it convenient for guys to get to, or at least as convenient as we can make it. The wintertime, we are, relegated to indoors. So I like to get, spread ourselves across the state, but there are only so many, I want to say quality, but indoors large enough to host events like the one I'm trying, like the preseason all state does. Mm-hmm. So there's only so many, facilities out there that can accommodate, a 75 player plus event. So it kind of limits us to St. Louis, Kansas City. Obviously, Mizzou has a nice one, but their football team and baseball team and all their other sports use that. So those are really your options you have in our state.
Did you? So when we're talking about this, as we move into high school baseball and we finish up, at the year, what are you looking for? When you're talking about the players and your stuff, how do you set your rankings? I mean, just you as a person. I'm sure there's a formula that PBR talks about and whatnot, but your experience, you've been a Division I college coach, Jeffco, Murray State. You've been around it. You've seen it. I mean, when you're looking at I'm sure, like I said, the PBR stuff, how do you I guess take and mold your viewpoints around those things to say, I really like this kid?
Yeah, obviously it's subjective. I'll be the first to admit that. So I can do these rankings, and then a different baseball guy would do them, and they'd be a little bit different. And you get 10 guys that do a rankings, there's certainly going to be 10 different rankings, basically. None of them would look identical. The other interesting thing about it is, like, it kind of shifts for me. So, like, the 2025s, for example, this freshman class, we haven't seen a ton of them. So a lot of it's on projection and, this guy throws 88 miles per hour as a freshman. He's going to be at the top because he has some physical tools that only so many freshmen in the country have. So that puts him immediately at the top of the list. Or, oh, wow, this kid can, he can really hit. He's got some power. He hits the ball over the fence as a freshman. Not many freshmen can do that, et cetera. Or he's a big-time runner. So a lot of it's on physical projection or some raw tools that they have. That starts the shift. Like, when you're 2022, you're a senior, it goes away from, oh, he just throws the hardest or he hits the ball the hardest. You actually have to have something behind it. You have to be able to produce on the field. So there is a line there. It starts with the young guys. It's more about their projection, their tools, what they could be. And as they get older, it's what have you done? What are you doing? As opposed to just flat tools and raw skill. Now, there is, if some kid threw 100 in the senior, but he had trouble throwing strikes, for example, and we don't have this kid in this senior class, so I'm just using this as an example. That puts me in a tough spot. If this kid's 6'5", throws 98 to 100, but he has trouble. Let's just say he's at Francis Howell, and Coach Perkins has a really good team again this year. He might not be good enough to play, be a main starter for Coach Perkins. Now, I'm certain he'd be on his team, but it doesn't mean that he'd be his number one pitcher, So
right.
that puts me in a really tough spot. Like, well, Major League Baseball is going to look at this kid and they're going to draft him for sure. But this kid's also not even good enough to, have a sub 7 ERA at his high school. Those situations are really tricky and put me in a tough spot, and that's where you have to make some tough calls. Like, hey, and then there's this kid that Coach Perkins has that doesn't throw 80 miles per hour, but he has a 1.5 ERA. He went 7-1. And he's 5'10", 160 pounds. He can really spin that breaking ball for a strike, but he has zero chance of playing Division I baseball, or even he might play college baseball, but it's going to be at a small school, which is great. But that doesn't mean that he's going to be the number one player in our class. Just because he's the pitcher of the year in that conference. So it's a balancing act, and you have to factor all that in. My job is to kind of weigh all those factors and spit out a rankings, which makes it extremely tough. And, like I said before, you get 10 guys in baseball that do these rankings, you're going to have one guy that might side more on the raw ability, and another guy that's going to just go more off of stats and what have they done. So it's a tricky balancing act.
I think it's interesting because I really think people need to know, and not just from the standpoint of, oh, okay, well, no, you're actually looking at this. This is you are the person putting those things in place, and then the PBR is pulling your information into the national scene, right?
Yes. Yeah. So now the national stuff, like we're just putting like today, one of the things I was working on before I got here was I was looking at our national list, like we have our rough draft out, and I have my rough draft already complete for what I'm putting out on Friday for the state rankings. And now I'm just putting the finishing touches on it, and their national article will go out immediately following the state ranking. But that's a big role that I have, is just I also work on the national piece from the Missouri State perspective, making sure we're well represented and appropriately represented. And I certainly don't move guys up one way or the other in terms they earn their spot. I don't overly fight for a guy or underly, so it's but the national guys rely on the state guys heavily to put those together as well.
And I'm not trying to, and folks, really, I'm not. And I'm not trying to put Kevin on the spot. I'm just trying to give people an overview of the scope of what you guys do and what the rankings are about and how they come to that. So when you see the rankings, people can look at the state rankings and kind of go, okay, I understand. Yeah, I saw him the other day. Yeah, he threw 96 miles an hour. He walked probably too many people, but I understand why he's the 10th ranked pitcher in the state, right? because of that perspective.
Yeah, that's a great point, and no, I appreciate the opportunity. So it's with the seniors, it does get it's nice. Like this 22 class, I'll do a spoiler alert for you. Like our number 1 and 2 players were both at the state tournament, and they actually both won the state championship last year. Reese Robinette, who we saw with Kennett, had a monster home run in the semifinal game that more or less won the game for him. Going to Arkansas, left-handed hitter. It's nice because he checks multiple boxes here. He has the physical ability, and he's backed it up by doing it on the field. So that makes that pretty simple for me. Carson Millbrant, he's a late bloomer. I had him at the Future Games 2 years ago or a year and a half ago, whatever, and he was 87 to 89. Well, he had a blow like this time last year. I certainly knew who Carson Millbrant was, and he was ranked in our top 10-ish, but he wasn't in the top 5. Well, over the wintertime, he went from upper 80s to legitimately throwing mid-90s. And he obviously led Liberty to a state championship, pitched in both games, the semifinal and the championship game, was up to 94. This summer he was up to 96. Well, that's our number 2 guy right there. He's a Vanderbilt commit. So there's another kid that he checks multiple boxes. He's doing this on the field. He's got a state championship to his credit now, and he was a big factor in it. And then he also has the eye test. He's a tall, good-looking kid. He throws really, has a big arm. He's got a breaking ball. So those guys make it, I don't want to say easy on me, but they make my job a little easier. It's tough when you got the guy that, leaves one of those boxes not checked. And that's when it really gets kind of a little more challenging.
I think we watched him finish off that championship game last year, and it was impressive. And so right there, like you said, that's eye test, it's there. So.
And as you recall, that Zumwalt West team was kind of the it team. And if it's not for Carson Millbrant, those guys are state champions. It took something extraordinary to top those guys. And he certainly was extraordinary throughout the spring and that night.
You're right, because there was kind of a momentum shift there midway through that game, and he brought in Carson Millbrant, and it went, boom.
Yeah,
you're right.
It shut things down, lights out. Yeah, and
I agree. You kind of just was like, oh yeah, he's that, and that's one of those moments, that you look at any level, that guy comes in, and all of a sudden you're just like, we're done. And, and he does have, it's kind of, you see that in him. I know it's still high school, but that's what it gives you, is that look, that foreseeable look to say, if this guy comes in, it's just one of those moments where the opponent kind of goes, boys, if we do this, it's kind of like Mariano Rivera. Yeah, good night.
Yep.
So I think so. Kevin, thanks as always, man. Hey, look, and too, I want to say this, and Kevin and I, we've been talking. We've got some great stuff. We're hoping we're going to be talking to our Gateway Athletic Conference folks. We're hoping to get a GAC High School Game of the Week this coming spring. Kevin being part of that, talking baseball with us, and being part of that crew. So we'll keep you guys posted on this. We're very excited about it, and hope everything comes together to where we can make this happen. Be a lot of fun.
Looking forward to it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Excited.
Absolutely. Folks, Kevin, happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family and everyone else out there.
Absolutely. And we're going to be coming back. We're going to ramp it up once we get back off of Thanksgiving. We're going to start talking about the rankings, moving into high school baseball. Kevin is going to be here to walk us all through that, through the winter, and we're looking forward to it, man.
Sounds good.
All right, everybody, happy Thanksgiving. Have a great day in the Lord. All you pitchers, keep throwing strikes, and you hitters, hit them where they ain't, and we will see you next time.